Well, you have just experienced vibration and sound, energy. And we all experienced it differently and uniquely as the unique beings that we are. As Kevin sang so beautifully, and his breath over his vocal cords brought that sound to us, he was saying and singing the same thing, but we all heard it a little differently, perhaps felt it a little differently. The vibration of the guitar strings as they came through, we felt it a little differently. We heard it a little differently, right? Yeah, because we're all unique and individualized. And I think music and instruments are a relatively easy way to understand how vibration works. And if we think about, what was her name, Sherry, that was here a few weeks ago with the beautiful flute, and she was simply blowing across the surface of that opening and making all of that beautiful music, right? Yeah. So it's a great way that we can see how sound is translated and how instruments are utilized to bring that to us. Can you sense the people next to you? Can you sense the energy of the people next to you in the room? During our meet and greet, did you feel the energy go up in the room? Yeah, every week we do. From up here, we can feel it as like a wave coming at us. It's the energy that we are as divine beings of light and love. It's that energy that we are. So we're continuing our series today, which is Empower Your Life by Living the Science of Mind. And we've been using the Science of Mind book, the Living the Science of Mind book, all year as our reference. And it was written by Ernest Holmes later on. There are a series of essays that he wrote to support his correspondence class, if you remember those that were mailed out to you back and forth and back before the internet. And so he wrote these essays in support of that class. And it expounds on the science of mind and gives us a little more practical application. It's written in a little more informal, if you will, language. So that's what we're using. And today my talk is, You Are a Spiritual Broadcasting Station. Now that's the title of his essay, but you are a spiritual broadcasting station. And Holmes tells us in this, he says, we are all spiritual and mental broadcasting stations. There is a silent force flowing from us in every direction at all times. You believe that? Yeah. How necessary it is that we assume the role of announcer and broadcaster. How necessary that we assume those roles, and how necessary that we write our own program and deliver it ourselves. Not the program that someone else has written for us because they believe this is how we should live our life, but our own program, and then deliver that program. Deliver that program. He goes on with an analogy of a microphone. And I'm wearing this one, but we're all familiar with this, right? When we speak into a microphone, if I speak into this right now, it's not on, nothing happens. But if I turn it on and give it power, the mechanics of it, it starts to work, right? There it is, it's working. And when I speak my word into this, what happens? It comes back. It's reflected back to me. Does this sound familiar? It's kind of like we speak our word into the law, right? Into universal law, and it's reflected back to us in our life. So it's a great analogy for how the law, the universal spiritual law, works in our life, very much like this mechanical microphone works in our life. I could give anyone that microphone turned on, and if you speak into it, it's going to reproduce your words, right? And the same is true with this law of life, that when we speak our word into the law, it is reflected back to us. It is reflected back to us. Holmes goes on to say that we are broadcasting stations whether we know it or not. We were laughing this morning. Anybody remember last year when I wandered off into the restroom with my microphone on? Lori Frisbee came flying out of meditation. Reverend Jill, Reverend Jill! Yeah, it was a spectacular moment, but it's a great example, right? It's working anyway. It's always working. If it's on, it's working. I wasn't aware, but hey, I was made aware. I was made aware. So our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions, our faith, our fear tend to make an imprint on our environment. And would you agree? Yeah, they do, don't they? He talks about how pets in a particular household can be influenced by the household and become somewhat neurotic. Would you agree? And even in our own lives, right? There's that whole debate about whether it's nurture or nature. You know, how much are we impacted and influenced by our environment versus our, quote, DNA? Yeah. So are there people in your life that you just love to be around? Their energy is something about it. You just like to be in their presence. And then there's other people that you kind of go, oh man, can I put that off one more day? Yeah? You know, sometimes those people can be in our families, right? It's like, oh, just one more day, but I'm not deal with Aunt Marge. Yeah, so we feel that energy of people around us. I was in the grocery store last week. I seem to have all these stories about the grocery store this year. I'm not sure why. Not my favorite thing to do, but anyway. I was on the cheese aisle. I was a little bit crowded. And there's a couple coming towards me. And rather than just, passing them, I was compelled to step way over up against the other aisle and move my cart out of the way. And I questioned myself. It's like, wow, that's interesting. And then as he walked by me, I went, wow, that is some negative juju. This is in my head. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? So as they got by me, I remembered the talk, of course, that I was immersed in. And I turned around to look and see what was going on. And I watched his interaction with the woman that he was with. And my observation was that he was very negative and domineering, and she was very submissive and somewhat stoic. They were very dressed up. He had on like a sport coat. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm just really sad that they're unhappy. They're both so unhappy. They're both so unhappy. But in that moment, I blessed them and went on about my shopping. So we pick up on people's energy all around us, even the negative stuff. And Holmes says that not only are we a broadcasting station, but we're a receiving station as well. And we don't always have to tune in to everything that's being broadcast, though, right? We have that choice of tuning our dial differently. He says that if you are surrounded by people who have resentment and animosity, but you don't have that, then you're not going to tune into it. Their vibration bypasses you, and their antagonism does not arouse an equal antagonism in you because you're not broadcasting on that same wavelength, that same frequency, right? You're not going to tune into it. So why did I tune into that guy? Was I really in a negative place? Why did I tune into him? Well, I think it's twofold. One is physical proximity. Our brains are wired to protect us, right? And he was coming down the aisle, kind of on his half in the middle too, and I realized I needed to move. But why did I move so far? And I think because there was a physical perception of threat that I tuned into that, and then I picked up on that energy. And that caused me to physically even move further away, not only from the physical contact, but also from the energetic contact. And two, preparing for this talk, I think that I had activated the law of attraction, which is attracting stories for me to be able to share with you today. That's what happens. So that was interesting in light of what Holmes was saying about tuning in. And I didn't, in fact, tune in, did I? I was able to notice, bless, and move on. I didn't get all up in my head about what's wrong with him, why is he taking so much space, why is he being mean to her, and that, I didn't get in all that. So I didn't tune in to that energy and what was happening there. I simply blessed and moved on, staying in my higher frequency up on what I like to say is satellite radio. Not over in the AM stations, I'm up on satellite. So we also can see this, you may have experienced it, when you're with someone and they have this big reaction to something that you just saw happen too, and you kind of go, we just don't have the reaction because we're not tuned in necessarily at the level that the person that we're standing next to maybe is. And they have a big reaction to it, and we might consider that an overreaction sometimes. Anybody else experience that? Yeah. It's because of where we're tuned in. It's where we're tuned in and what we're receiving as these receiving stations. It's vacation season, right? We're kind of moving into vacation times. Anybody ever been known to binge eat when on vacation? Yeah, lots of food pictures, right? Yeah, I'm guilty of that when I go back and visit my family because my sister is such a wonderful cook and she cooks all those things I grew up with that I don't eat anymore. And so it's very easy to do. And then we come home and do what? Oh, gosh. Oh, please, I just need salads or fasting or something to get myself back in sync, right? Get back on a healthy track. Well, the same is true with our mental diet, isn't it? If we're feeding ourselves negativity and violence in books, TV, movie, those kinds of things, or in conversations even, if we're in negative conversations or conversations that tear people down as opposed to lift them up, we're feeding our mind a negative diet. We're binging sometimes on that negative diet of the food of our mind. And when I think it's Abraham that says belief is a thought you keep thinking. So if we get into that negative feedback loop of feeding ourselves negative thoughts and ideas, we're creating a belief, aren't we? And somewhere it gets lodged in our subconscious that we've got this negative belief now. So feeding ourselves this positive, affirmative diet in our mental capacity helps to support us in our continued growth and evolution and creating a much more happy and successful life. Now, the other side of this negativity stuff, of course, is right here, right? Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, coming together on Sunday mornings here in community. We're attracted to each other. We're drawn to each other. We use that phrase, like-minded, right? Because we're on the same idea, the same frequency, the same wavelength, the same vibration of coming together. And isn't that really why anybody comes together? Two people meet and they like each other. They're kind of at the same similar vibration. Corporations, people come together. We work in corporations where we're sort of like mind with people. And even our spiritual community, the like-mindedness of coming together to celebrate faith and success and prosperity principles and all the things that we come here to feel uplifted about as our vibration gets higher, right? As our vibration gets higher. Now that's a good thing, unless, of course, you're glass. Okay, so we have a science demonstration this morning. Probably wondered why I had wine glasses here, right? Uh-oh. All right. Is this on? Okay. Those are different, yes? All right. That is known as the resonant frequency of those glasses. Isn't that cool? So, the theory is that if the resonant frequency is the same and intensified, that they begin to vibrate at the same intensity until it vibrates so violently that glass, being fragile, will actually break. You ever heard that, Maestro?
A particularly nice example here where you can actually, if you can find the resonant frequency of a wine glass, so that's its resonant frequency.
Right, that note is what you want to achieve, yeah.
If you force it to vibrate at that frequency, then it will vibrate so violently that it will break.
Fabulous, great. I meant to ask in a huge way.
Sorry, I meant to say in theory.
Yeah, no, let's just keep doing it until we get the break. I'm very happy.
Is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? Your fingers in the ears or something on? Yeah.
By the way, to say this is a trick that used to be done by opera singers, isn't it?
It's actually really difficult to do.
Yeah.
To do it, you have to, if I just nick it for a second, you have to get it that close to your mouth. And as we should see in the moment where the glass goes, if you like glass in your mouth, it's a really stupid thing to do.
So
Don't try this at home.
See if we get the piece of paper to
Yeah, so that's going to vibrate the glass, which will make the paper jump.
So the minute we know the paper jumping, you crack it for volume.
Right, okay, you ready?
How exact do you have to be here?
Very exact. Can you see that going?
Yeah, I can, yeah. It's spooky. The tension of the build-up, you took long enough to get there, didn't you?
We actually, you did one with a proper high-speed camera.
Very last from my She did one a few years ago with a slow motion camera. This is it.
Wow, what was quite significantly. Bottom bit goes first. How was it tough to hold them together?
Yeah, that's incredible. That shows just how fast the frame rate is.
Imagine if that was near your mouth and was happening that way.
Yeah.
So not recommended.
No, but cool.
So, science, resonant frequencies, our energy. Think about the first time you fell in love and you met someone and you were vibrating at the same energy and it was just so exciting, right? Yeah. So it's that energetic frequency that, again, causes that higher vibration and the coming together even in community, the higher vibration. Not that we break apart, of course, but it is the higher vibration of spirit that connects us. Yeah, kind of fun stuff. So lots of application for this, lots of application. If we're talking about love, we're talking about God, right? So where's God in all this thing with the broadcasting station, with the receiving and the sending and the this and the that and the other? Well, if we're broadcasting all the time and God is all there is, which we pretty much come to that conclusion, yes, then we're always, whatever we're broadcasting is broadcasting in God, yes? And being reflected back to and through us, yes? Yeah, sure, certainly. And we use things called affirmative prayer, meditation, that allow us to talk to God and listen to God, right? That's the whole purpose of that, is to get us connected in that conversation, if you will, with our higher power, with the divine, with the infinite intelligence that there is. Has anybody ever taken a communication class where they tell you you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth? You should listen twice as much as you talk? Yeah? I remember when I first started studying the science of mind and learning about meditation and affirmative prayer and stuff, I talked to God all the time. I was telling God how it was. My life wasn't working, this wasn't going well, and you got to fix this, and this is how you need to do it, right? Yeah, I was all about talking at God. And I have to say, I don't think God was listening. Because I think I was speaking a pretty foreign language, because the divine does not understand complaining. The universal law does, because it just gives it right back to us, right? Give you some more to complain about. Yeah. But spirit is in that place of grace and love and affirmation. And when we speak with God, we speak that language and listen. That's where we begin to build that strong relationship with the beloved. We build our strong relationship with the beloved. We're the hands and feet of God on planet Earth. We are the hands and feet of the divine. Mother Teresa said, we are not channels of the divine. We are instruments through which the breath of God makes beautiful music. I love that, because we frequently talk about, I'm a channel for God to come through, and it's like, no, I'm an instrument. I'm an instrument through which spirit plays. Mother Teresa said that channels are just like a ditch that water just runs through with no creativity or direction. Whereas the instrument, think about the instrument that Kevin plays in the guitar that makes beautiful, beautiful music that comes through that. Yeah. Ernest Holmes, as well as thousands and thousands of other spiritual teachers over centuries, has taught about vibration and energy and the energetic flow of life that we all are. It started back in even 500 BC with Pythagoras, a Greek philosopher. And he studied vibration and was understanding how it worked and understanding how energy played and how the divine flows through us as the energy of creation. So it's been around for a long time, and of course quantum physics today is showing us, with the smaller and smaller and finer sciences, is showing us that nothing is solid, is it? Nothing is solid. And if you get down to the basic building blocks of everything, the atoms and the molecules and even further, everything's moving. You know, there's neurons and things that are spinning around and all of that. So nothing, even though it appears to us to be solid, is. It's all in movement. It's all got its own resonant vibration, just like the glass. Everything has that. Everything has that. So Ernest tells us to let us tune our mental instruments to success and happiness. Why would we tune to anything else? He says it so simply. Let us tune our mental instruments to success and happiness, to the idea of physical wholeness, and above everything else to the comforting thought that there is a love in the universe which by its very presence dissolves all hate. There is a faith that neutralizes all fear. There is a confidence that brushes aside all doubt. God never deserts us, and we shall never have to convince God to be good. Yeah, isn't that comforting? So let's move into practicing our principles today and see how maybe we can adjust our dials and get rid of some static in our life this week. Our first principle is decide not to receive negative signals. Just decide, right? Decide to be tuned at a higher frequency and just not receive those. Remember my analogy of the ninja Jesus. Jesus said, turn the other cheek. It's get out of the way, right? Just get out of the way. Like the ninja guys with the energy, and it's like, just don't take the blow. Let them go right by you. So don't be a receiver of that negative signals. Holmes was talking about in this article about when people throw bricks. If somebody's throwing a brick at you, he says, don't catch it. Don't catch it. He says, if you catch it, what do you want to do? You want to throw it right back. And then the air's full of bricks, and then we got a mess. Same idea, right? Same idea. Number 2 is be flexible and tolerant. Flexible and tolerant. This is not from a holier than thou, I'm spiritual and I can be flexible attitude, right? We've all known people that have done that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just being flexible and tolerant. And the best way to do that, of course, is by staying filled up in our spiritual practices, right? Staying filled up in our spiritual practices. Had I not been, when I ran into the guy in the cheese aisle, I might have tuned into his frequency a little more. Yeah, I might have been pulled over to his frequency. But I've got my own dial, and I tuned into the higher plane, tuned in. And just like exercise keeps our bodies flexible, our spiritual practices keep our mind flexible. Keep our mind flexible. And number 3, be positive and affirmative. Always, in all things. Always, in all things. There's that word all again, right? Nothing outside of it. All. It's not always easy. We all have pockets of resistance. It's the yeah but from last week, remember? Yeah, I can be positive right here, but not there. No, you don't know my Aunt Martha, right? But if we can stay positive and affirmative always in all things, that's tuning our dial up to that higher resonance, that higher frequency. But like that microphone, remember, it reflects back. It reflects back. So positive and affirmative is sweet music to our ears. Sweet music. So I want to close this out today with a final quote by our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And he says, we must find a faith greater than all of our doubts and fears, all of our uncertainties. And somewhere along the line, we must find a love greater than animosity. It's like Kevin's song. Find a love greater than animosity. And we must find a peace beyond our confusion. Wow, that sounds like going into meditation and connecting with the divine, doesn't it? A peace beyond confusion. And this is a pathway that we're all seeking, whether we know it or not. And we are being guided by a loving intelligence which ever more seeks to bring us peace and comfort. Seeks that alignment with us. It brings us cheer and goodwill, happiness and success and health and abundance. Connecting in the one as the one. So I invite you to join me now as we do that and anchor this in our affirmative prayer today. As we move within to that place within us that knows that we are whole, perfect, and complete. That place within us that God resides. in, through, and as our very being. That place of love and joy, of harmony, of balance. That place of affirmation, that place of yes. Yes to the magnificence that we have come here to be and to express and to experience. Yes to the good that is God. Yes to the good that we are. And I know, claim, and accept today that as we are these spiritual broadcasting stations and these spiritual receivers, that we are attentive and focused on what we are broadcasting, that we write our own story, we write our own script, and we deliver it as only we can do. For we are each individualized and unique. And as receivers, we keep our dial turned up to that higher frequency of the divine flow, of the power and the presence of God in, through, and as each of us. Keeping it up on satellite radio, commercial free. And I know for anyone that has anything on their heart today that they are seeking prayer support around, that as they bring that forward into their heart and their mind, that is lifted. And they are guided and guarded, healed and made whole, whatever it may be. The answers are there. The answers are within and revealed with ease and grace and joy. And how grateful I am for this, for the manifestation of this prayer, for the truth and the wisdom of the one that is made manifest through each of us. I simply place this into the action of law, knowing that as we do, it is reflected back to us, knowing that we are complete. We affirm together by saying, and so it is.